Disgraceful. And when it comes to a time when our country can't make aluminum and steel, and somebody said it before, and I will tell you, you almost don't have much of a country. Because without steel and aluminum, your country's not the same.
They had it simultaneously. The president announcing the tariffs on steel and aluminum, and the Dow sold off in response. You could just see it side by side. It happened simultaneously. The president this morning embracing the idea of a trade war. He tweeted this: "When a country, USA, is losing many billions of dollars on trade with virtually every country it does business with, trade wars are good and easy to win. Example, when we are down $100 billion with a certain country and they get cute, don't trade anymore."
U.S. tariffs are intended to ensure that U.S. products, services, and industries are put first. The mainstream media has made it seem that this is the first time ever that this has been done. So let's take a look back in the pages of history and see what happened the last time tariffs were imposed and how that affected the stock market. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Let's get into tariffs today, and I want to begin with Bush. Bush imposes Canadian lumber tariffs. This article is dated March 22nd, 2002. So the administration at that time slapped tariffs on Canadian softwood imports to protect U.S. lumber jobs. The article here out of CNN: the Bush administration slapped the average tariffs of 29% on Canadian softwood lumber imports in a bid to protect U.S. lumber jobs from subsidized Canadian imports. And you hear that as a common theme today with the current administration. The same wording. They're talking about this. So, the tariffs, known as countervailing duties, will average 19%. These are to punish Canada for unfairly subsidizing its softwood lumber industry. We hear the exact same thing today. A separate dumping penalty of 9.6% will be applied to punish Canada for selling its softwood lumber at prices that are described as below fair market value. Together, the penalties will be 29%. So if you think about this for a moment here, a 29% tax is truly a reason not to go overseas, not to deal with anybody else, not to buy from that country. And that, of course, is the purpose, and it will work successfully. And you could see that in this case, Bush imposed these, and, this wasn't the only thing that they did. Let's take a look. Bush puts tariffs of as much as 30% on steel imports. President Bush took some of the most broadest, by the way, this is from March 6th, 2002, broadest federal action in 2 decades to protect a major American industry, today imposing tariffs of up to 30% on most types of steel imported into the United States from Europe, Asia, and South America. The tariffs will last 3 years to give American steel producers time to consolidate operations and stem layoffs. So you can see exactly what they were trying to do here in this case. They wanted a temporary tariff, help out the industry, and of course, there were reactions to that. Mr. Bush's action is likely to send the price of steel up sharply, perhaps as much as 10%. A cost American consumers will ultimately bear in the higher prices for autos, appliances, and housing. The United States imports about a quarter of the steel it consumes. Mr. Bush exempted steel made in Mexico and Canada and developing nations from the tariffs. The nations hit hardest are Japan, South Korea, China, Taiwan, Germany, and Brazil. And there is more on this that I'd like to talk about in a moment. Of course, when you do this, you're hurting the business of these other countries. They've been dealing with you, and now suddenly you put a tax on it, and those corporations can't deal with each other. So surely some individuals won't be too happy. But hang on to that thought for just a moment. Take a look at this. So Bush puts in these tariffs. And you can see right around here, this is March 2002. It wasn't pretty. Now, was this the only reason? No, of course not. But you can see a definite correlation here. As soon as they brought these tariffs in, the market came down. Now, we have to factor in, everything else that was happening at that time. Look at this. The S&P 500, by the way, the red line, but also the dollar and also the 10-year yield. All of these tracking each other, completely correlated on a downward spiral. It's interesting to say the least. Now, in November of 2003, U.S. tariffs on steel are illegal, World Trade Organization says. So let's discuss why they believe this. The WTO ruled on Monday that steel tariffs imposed by Bush last year were illegal, clearing the way for the European Union to impose more than $2 billion of sanctions on imports from the United States, unless Washington quickly drops the duties. So they fight back. They're saying, you're going to do that to us, we're going to do this to you. The final decision by a WTO panel, which was widely anticipated and has been discussed for weeks at the White House, puts Mr. Bush in a difficult spot as the election looms. He must choose between continuing to help the steel industry, which could bolster his electoral prospects in a crucial industrial states, or respecting the international trade laws and increasing his chance of winning new regional and global trade agreements. All right, that's what happened last time. I'm not going to read you the whole history here, but it's very, very interesting what happened the last time around, and we're hearing the same rhetoric this time. Now, this is recent information. A lumber shortage has pushed prices to record highs as builders stock up for what is expected to be one of the busiest construction seasons in years. Now, I don't know if that's actually true. However, that's what they're saying. Builders in the U.S. say that the higher lumber costs are making homes more expensive. Lumber prices started rising last year after fires destroyed prime forest and a trade dispute between U.S. and Canada restricted supplies. Now a shortage of rail cars and trucks is forcing builders to pay even more. We are in a lumber supply crisis. That's their words. All right? And essentially they're spending $8,500 more now than they were a year ago. So we're talking about a serious level. And things that are happening now in the lumber industry probably are going to get worse. So we can expect the prices to rise, and it's not a good thing for the average consumer, perhaps, but I can understand where they're going with this. You need to be able to withstand that pressure temporarily and hope that over a few year period, this is going to be beneficial. I understand why this is done. And of course, with all of this globalization that's been taking place, the current administration is going to take heat for it. There's all this push for globalization. And I do think that trade between countries is very beneficial. I am not against that. I am not in favor of massive pacts that involve half of the world and somebody has to benefit and somebody has to lose. I don't like that. If both sides are winning, then I think it's good. Subsidizing a particular industry, I think, is never a good thing because, of course, that takes away the free market aspect of it. Look at, all the agriculture and everything else. Now, I don't know about the details of this. I found the information, wanted to bring it to you. Carl Icahn, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. So you can see the SEC filing if you're interested. February 22nd, 2018, disclosed that he systematically sold off nearly 1 million shares. And this company is a leading global manufacturer of cranes and lifting solutions and therefore heavily dependent on steel to make its products. And that came just 7 days before the White House event where Trump announced his intention to impose a 25% tariff on steel imports. Now, they're suggesting that because he's close, that somehow, he got the insider information. I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. It is quite coincidental, but I would think if you're on the inside, truly on the inside, you would have known 2 months, 3 months, 6 months before that, not 7 days before it. It looks a little suspicious. So either way, it's interesting to see that some people are trading based on this. That's the reason I mention it, whether it's insider trading or not. If you think that there's going to be tariffs imposed, maybe you would want to take a look at possible trades. You can see that this company here lost 6% of its value. Interesting. That's all I'll say. Now, I'm going to mention two points here. General Motors, the US government gave them a bailout. They took the money and they built different plants. This happens to be here in Brazil. They expanded into China. They expanded everywhere. Your bailout money, your tax dollars, went to build factories in other countries so that a company like GM could increase their profits. Your tax money increasing their profits. And that's what I don't like. That's what I don't like to see. You know, there's one thing where you can have tariffs, one thing where you can have taxes. And then we have to look at the other side of it. What's happening in this financial world that is allowing all of this business to take place where money is just being pushed offshore, pushed overseas? Businesses are just opening up. Why not open in your own country? Why not have the ability to do business in your own country? Well, it's too expensive. Well, things have to change. You know, the amount of money that's being squandered by the government, that's the first place that we need to look at. And what about this? France tried to impose this 75% tax, this super tax, and didn't last long. Why? When you impose a rule like this, you don't think that people are just going to flee? If somebody is very, very wealthy and they live in France, do you not think that they are going to take off should they need to? They are not going to lose their money. If a corporation has some sort of, tax imposed on it, why in the world would they stay? Why not just move to the next country over? It'll probably make their money back in no time. They don't care. They don't care about the employees they have. They don't care about anything. They will lay people off. They will close up shop. They don't care. Companies only focus on one thing, and that is corporate profits. And governments just don't understand that. They said, well, we can make more